Good evening, Miss Mei. I am Shobha and I am joined by Shirley and Induja, and we are Group 1. Our presentation today is divided into these 4 parts. To start off is the introduction, and we have chosen the poem by Rudyard Kipling. And as you can see from the dates below, he is no longer with us. We've decided to start our introduction with a little bit of some interesting facts about him, because we feel this led to a better understanding of him as a linguist, as well as a writer and a poet. Now, I'd like to talk about 6 things about Kipling. The first, number 1, nationality. He was born in the United Kingdom, but grew up in India, where a lot of inspiration has come and affected his work of art. He is best known for the beautiful movie and book, The Jungle Book, and it was such an international success that Kipling received the Pulitzer Prize for Literature, and to date, he remains the youngest person to achieve this feat. The third thing is about his literary inspirations, and Kipling was very inspired through his work by music, nature, and observing human relationships. The database that we are going to talk about this evening is his poem If, which, as you can see in number 4, is a poem about life, living a life of compassion, hope, and pride. And our group chose the poem If because on a linguistical perspective, this poem is almost perfect, in sync when it comes to its morphology, syntax, and prose, as our group will share later. And how influential is Kipling's poem If? When we talk about global recognition, it is very well recognized. And to give you a clue where you can find Kipling's most famous stanza of If, it is something to do with tennis. So I'll give you that answer at the end of our presentation. Now we will show you our database, and Shirley and Induja are going to share stanza 1 and stanza 4 of the poem.
Okay, thank you so much, Shobha, for the explanation. Now I'm going to start with the first stanza of the poem. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for the adopting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies. Or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise.
Thank you, Shirley. So I will continue the following poem. If you can talk with crowds and keep your reach full, walk with kings not lost, the common touch. If either force nor loving friends can hurt you, if all the men come with you, but none too much. If you can feel the unforgiving minutes, the 60 seconds word of business run, yours is the earth and everything that in it, and which is more, you will be a man, my son. So now I will continue the following part, that is the data analysis. So moving on to the first part, morphology. So from center 1 is ing is indicating ongoing actions. S is indicating the ownership. Ed is indicating the past actions. Moving on to the next slide. So here is the center 2. So S is the to form the plural nouns, and en and ed is the past actions. And moving on to the stanza 3. So here ing s is from the plural of the nouns, and s is indicating the third person singular form of the present tense. Moving on to the final stanza. So s is the same functions from the previous stanza, and ing and u and an is the adjective. So moving on to the next part is the part number 2 is the syntax. So here we identify conditional statements, coordination conjunctions, adverbs, adjective, nouns, pronouns, and relative clauses, contractions, word changes, and then I'm focusing to the insertive phrase and then para structure. So here The para with 2 is explaining why something is done, and the para structure is the similar sentence structure. That's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Induja. So we're going to move forward to synthetic structures. So the meaning of synthetic structures refer to the arrangement of words, phrases, and clauses in a sentence which is crucial for conveying meaning and ensuring reader comprehension. Next. There are 6 points in this part, which is words or group of words, punctuation marks, line shapes, prescribed stanzic structure, metrical scheme, and rhyme scheme. The two important or the 2 points that I'm going to highlight are words or group of words, also metrical scheme. So before I start with the explanation, just like the first stanza that I have read, line 1 until 4. So in that excerpt, Kipling uses clear and easily understood words and phrases such as keep your head, losing theirs, blaming, or trust yourself to effectively communicate the poem's guidance and advice. This means that the vocabulary is actually straightforward, making it accessible to a wide range of readers while also conveying profound wisdom and guidance. And then for metrical scheme, so within the structure, Kipling actually employs a metrical scheme, which is a pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables in each line of a poem. So this way it creates the poem's rhythm and flow. So in this case, in Rudyard Kipling If poem case, the lines actually consist of 10 syllables and alternate between stressed and unstressed syllables, which then further adds to the poem's cadence and flow.
Now I would like to talk about patterns, variation, and linguistic phenomena. So in a poem, there is always a pattern because patterns immediately give the poem form and structure. So in If, what Kipling did is he was very consistent by having a strong structure. And because he had a strong structure, he had a consistent form. And these two things together, the structure and the form, allowed him to have what is called an artistic interplay between formal and informal variations. Okay, so formal variations is defined as elements of visual and audio in a poem. So basically, in layman's terms, it's what we see and what we hear in the poem. And informal variations means tones of meaning and expression. And in layman's terms, what the poem makes us feel and makes us express. So within the poem If, we have the very structured pattern and form of 4 8-lined stanzas. And the If is actually following an octave form, meaning it is an 8-lined pattern stanza. And this is done to have the poem be more understood and appreciated by not only the person who is receiving the poem, but the person who is relating the poem. Next, he has clear and balanced between formal and informal variations. And this allows a very natural storytelling to happen. And the person is able to appreciate the poem. And there's a little bit of a tug and pull effect, which is actually quite harmonious and makes the poem appreciated even more. Finally, linguistic phenomena. There are actually 3 linguistic phenomena in the poem If. One is anaphora, which is a repetition of words, and definitely the word if, which is used at the start of this octave form poem, gives Kipling a sense of rhythm. Then there is the surah, which is the international pause between hyphens, and the hyphen gives a sense of power. So if you read this, if you can dream and not make dreams your master. So that pause there is to give power to the poem. Finally is imagery, and he uses a lot of figurative language like, if you can wait and not be tired of waiting. So all of these images stir all kinds of feelings with us, and that is what makes Kipling's poem very relatable. To conclude, our group wants to talk about real-life application. So the question we want to ask and put forward is, what makes a poem, a novel, and a strong song stand the test of time? And our group feels that it is the winning combination of syntax, morphology, literary devices, and linguistic phenomena. And that is the reason why we are studying this course, because when all these four elements are balanced together, it creates an exceptional poem, an exceptional novel, an exceptional song that relates to us with meaning. So I had mentioned earlier at the beginning that what is the global recognition for Kipling? Where in the world can we find Kipling's poem? And I said it has something to do with tennis. So where we can find a stanza of Kipling's poem, if is at Wimbledon center court, as the two players are leaving towards the courts for their finals or semifinals, they are met with this part of Kipling's poem, which says, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same. All right. So thank you very much, Miss May. May, we've had a wonderful time doing this project, and we thank you for giving us this opportunity to share the poem. Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you.